Rise for pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Wonder Jim.
Here.
Bennett. Here. Steffes. Gardine here. Campbell. Here. DeHaan.
Here.
Highboard.
Here. We have quorum. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Obviously, these last minute things are tough, and obviously, I know Joe would have wanted to be here. But we have plans at times, right? So these things happen. So really appreciate everyone being able to do this. Please note, as a courtesy to the members of the audience and the Board of Education, silence your cell phones. Everybody in the audience, public will only be able to speak during public comment. No public comment. All right, fantastic. Can I get approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Support. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Discussions, reports.
Okay, thanks. And again, and I really appreciate you guys being here for this, and I'm going to be brief on it, but yet at the same time, if you need to be longer, we'll be longer. I've tried to provide you information. You did give me, you passed a resolution last time you recall to give me the ability that if this didn't go our way to rescind it, but I thought it was important to give you an update on where things are at and to give you more information so that you have that, so you feel comfortable and confident with what we're looking to do as well. You know, as I sent to you before, the case, we lost the case, we being the schools and the intermediate school district that were suing the state of Michigan, the Department of Ed, and so on over the 31A funds. And that was appealed, and then there was a hearing or meeting regarding the appeal and the timeline of that appeal at the state level. And it was determined that that appeal would not be heard. I mean, they heard part of it, but they said that there wouldn't be any true finality to hearing it until after the December 30th deadline, which we know is today. So it put districts in a very tough position as far as, you know, what do we do from here? Yesterday, the attorney said, and Heather was sitting in on that as well, I know, and I believe you were here, weren't you, Scott? Yeah, and Scott as well. And it sounded like February, maybe. So that's some time from now. It was a chance for the attorney to talk us through things and to also answer any questions. You will see the summary that you have in your packet that has MASA at the top is really, there's a toolkit there, but then this part with the navigating 31AA really lays out what our meeting was and what the attorney said about things. So really nothing has changed in my mind. There's hope in that, you know, it is appealed and they'll continue to litigate this and see where it goes. But as far as any outcome, it really hasn't changed. And, you know, as they look at it from a federal level, they're sitting back and waiting for the state to do all of their stuff and exhaust all the process and what takes place in the legal proceedings, and then they said they'll go from there after that.
So that also means they won't even really pick this up until after February.
Right. So they won't as well. So, you know, we've had conversation in the past, and I know I've told you this over and over, and my feeling hasn't changed. I cannot recommend that we stay opted into this. I do believe that, you know, our recommendation would be to rescind it. But I also know there's some questions you'll have, and there's some information that we think you need to have to know I mean, the legal ramifications because of the language, the gray language that's used, that, any legal person that we've talked to, they just don't think it's a good idea. They really don't. They can't come out and say you shouldn't do it, but they really don't think it's a good idea to do. And I would have to agree with them, because if things were more defined, then we could weigh things better. But they can't even tell us if this ends with the grant funding, the current funding. I mean, this could go on for forever. It could go back if you opt in for a long period of time. So there's a lot of things. When we asked the attorney, he just said, yeah, I don't know. And he goes, could be, or, might be, he would say. Like, what do you mean, might be? So that, part was obviously very frustrating as well to hear. We have talked from a financial standpoint what it means for our district, and we'll, briefly go over Heather's, and, Heather spent some time on this, and I appreciate it. In a very conservative view. I can also tell you what other districts are doing, and maybe I'll just say that right now. Around us, I know Wyoming, Byron Center, Jenison, and Hudsonville are all rescinding. In Kent County, my understanding, there are 5 districts that are opting in, and the rest have said they're rescinding. So that's where things stand here. You'll see in here, the attorney couldn't give you exact numbers, but said everything he's heard, a majority of people are rescinding around the state, that there are some still staying opted in, but for the most part that is happening. So from a financial standpoint, Heather, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I don't remember if it's in the synopsis that Roger gave you, but there is also doubt as to whether or not, if the court, whether the Court of Appeals or at the federal level says you're wrong, school districts don't need to waive their rights, whether or not, if we opt out, that we would get an equity amount back. So potentially there is that. I think it's a real long shot, though, based on what we know from yesterday's meeting. So
It's a long shot that we would get it, or we would not?
I think it's a long shot that the court will rule in the district's favor.
Okay.
That's what he said. But it is within the appeal. They have asked for that.
Yes, yeah. So, I know we went over this a little bit before, and as the December state aid has come out, I've been able to really dial in on some of those numbers from a revenue standpoint, and also our salaries and our benefits, and it is a very conservative approach. If we were to take the money, we would look at about $120,000 deficit for the year, which would put us at 8.24%. As a reminder too, the proposed budget I brought to you back in early June had an $810,000 deficit, and that had about a 7.55% fund balance. So basically what I did here, just to show you, is I left all of our expenditures the same, and I did that intentionally because I don't know about going about like mid-year cuts. B, I don't think we want to cut security. I think those are some internal conversations we need to have and bring you in on those. So I left all of the expenditures the same, and just so you know, what we have used this money for in the past has been to cover counselors, our high school attendance person, and security. which includes security cameras, not just people, but some of those upgrades as well. So historically, we've seen around 620,000 each year. This year on our December state aid, the total budget for us was 895,000. So if you look at the amended without basically that state aid line, which is the second down, the 53 million, it's 895 less from the previous column. So I tried to break it down so you could see it based on like salaries and benefits. I know it's a little different than what you see. Normally it's broken out by basic programs and that, but I thought this would give you a little clearer view of where the funds are spent.
Do you know how many counselors we hire with this?
Yeah, so we did one at the middle school and 2 at the high school.
Okay.
And you can see it, obviously, at the bottom, fund balance difference between the two. And with our best look today, looks like it'd be 7.19% fund balance is what would remain if we chose, to rescind this. So.
If you're like, I think there's probably some wiggle room in supplies and materials. We did cut building budgets to start the year by 5%. I think we could cut them another 5. We've talked about, I guess just to give you some ideas, we've talked about looking at our PD in the next semester and sub costs and how we run that. Maybe we do that differently.
And what we'll do is, if that is the case, what we'll do is we'll look at everything. We'll also get together with our administrators and let them know the situation we're in and how, we need to all work together to save as much as we can this second half of the year so that that deficit decreases. So that's what we'd be looking at.
Is there any opportunity from the ISD for any additional funding coming from their fund balance?
Yeah, and not sure, Bob. We haven't had really any talk yet about that. They, and as far as 31AA, they rescinded, but they don't get that much. Really,
I understand that,
they stepped up and were a part of the lawsuit. But yeah, we haven't talked about that yet with them. That would be definitely a group discussion and what can we all do together to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the new millage that just came through, okay, we put our credibility on the line for them at some point. This is one of those times, just like why we have fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
Why we have fund balance.
Right.
Their fund balance affects us as well.
Yeah.
Can I add to it? Just
please.
That line item there, that special ed tuition costs, historically when center programs were run by GRPS, we would get invoiced twice a year. The last year in particular, the ISD has utilized their special ed millage to help cover those costs for districts.
Good.
So that number, I know it's 300,000 is what I have estimated. That number could change. It could go down. And just as to a reminder on the enhancement mill, that millage, the county gets nothing of that millage. They distribute that based on our student count for every district in the county.
And I understand that. That wasn't my
No,
perspective. My perspective is we used our credibility to get that passed on a countywide basis. I didn't, I understand where that was going. Thanks.
I think the bottom line with this, and I know with this one, I've probably been a little more vocal and maybe in the political realm of saying why governor, why attorney general, why legislators, all legislators, why Department of Ed, why is this okay? You know, and like I said, the example when we did the resolution, why could a school shooter have attorney-client privilege, but the school district not have it? That right there tells you this whole idea is out of whack. And then when you look at some of the examples that are given within, you know, that the judge gave during this, I mean, those aren't Oxford. Those are bus accidents. Those are bleachers collapsing. Those are things that, and the more I read that, the more confused I was really of what is this? And that's the problem with this. They didn't define it. If they would have defined this better, then I think it would have had, you know, it would have had some ability for people to get behind. I don't think anyone objects to them doing an investigation and that transparency. But, you know, our police department does that every time we have a legal situation. We have a school investigation, they have their own investigation, we do parallel investigations. And if they really wanted to do that to get information about how did this happen and what, you know, what can we do to prevent these kinds of things in the future, then, you know, they could do that without anybody losing their attorney-client privilege. Because I feel good about how we handle these things, and I think we're pretty transparent with it, and we would be in a case like that, because we'd want to know how to, you know, how can we do better if there was anything. But it's a reactive, they've taken this funding and focused it on reactive stuff and not proactive stuff, which is where it began. And I don't know. I don't know why, and I don't know how they can think that this is okay. And once you give up your rights, your local control and your rights in these areas here, you're not getting them back. And that's why you're seeing so many people rescind. Because if they're going to do this, what's next? What are they going to do next with funding, conditional funding, instead of proactive and trying to support our kids with our programming? So it's very frustrating.
Has there been any talk at the state level with all of these districts rescinding? What are they going to do with that money?
That's what
I don't know.
Likely it will go, because the way it works with this funding structure is there's a pot of money. And however many people opt in, right, it gets divided between that
They're just
many
going to get
people. So they
big-
likely could get more.
They could.
Could or not.
I have a feeling that's not going to happen. I have a feeling that that pot of money's the people will get what they're getting, and I have a feeling that they're going to use it in some other way, shape, or form.
Because it's a political hot potato. If they further enrich those that do not rescind, politically that could hurt everybody over there. They'll give it to somebody else. They'll find another purpose for it.
I assume that
But
the
normally that's how
lobbyists-
grants work. You're right. Normally that's how grants work.
Normally,
The
but
people
not
are in,
always.
but yeah.
I wonder with, obviously, the lobbyists, and there are people that are working with state legislators so that they understand sort of the major implications and that this is causing for local districts.
Yeah, and I think the message that they'll get from the majority of districts rescinding, you know, should say something as well. And I think as far as the local legislators go, I gotta believe they're listening to their local communities. That you know, it's a tough thing. But considering that a majority of them didn't even know this was in the budget bill when it was passed, so.
Which brings up a great question. I mean, who put it in?
The people that got in the room, you know how we always say the people that, you know, they get, they have a bipartisan group that gets in a room and figures it out. This came out of that.
This is just trying to it's never been there before, right? And then someone had to say, let's put this in.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to track who put
You
it
would
in.
think.
You would
It's
think.
neither here nor there, but I mean, it would just be
It is
interesting.
kind of.
Right.
Whose idea was, is this modeled after some other states
Right.
that do something like this? It's just bizarre. I mean, is this type of statement in any other piece of legislation that they have when it comes to funding for schools? You know, so somebody came up with this idea and
Yeah, it's a first.
Of all the, I try to stay up to
Yeah.
date
Yeah.
on all the unusual or non-mainstream media that follows schools from a state perspective. There's been nothing on that particular question.
it's just,
Because I think they're embarrassed by it.
that's what it feels like. It feels like they're all running for cover and going, I'm not going to own up to this.
Yeah.
No one's
You know?
There's been very little coverage of it in general, which
Yeah.
surprised me.
Yeah.
But I
I'm
guess
seeing
if
I'm seeing on the news once, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised with like all of the schools rescinding that
Yeah.
it's not there more.
I think
Right,
you'll see
right.
it more now
Well,
after
yeah, you
tonight.
want to talk about reactionary, when
Yeah.
people find out that all this funding for school safety, mental health
Yeah.
is gone,
Yeah.
and that's been the battle cry, it's mental health, we need to help these kids before they get a gun and come to school.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, well,
All right.
Yeah. Any other, anything else or?
from the sound of it, we are going to have to, for example, do layoffs in the middle of the year this year.
We may look at restructuring some things that I don't think you would, anyone, yeah, I mean, maybe within buildings reorganizing some things would notice, but not like major layoffs.
Right, like we're not cutting
We're
all of our
gonna-
counselors
Yeah,
or, okay.
Yeah, we're not looking at doing that right now. But I think you're talking about, you know, you've got a 7.19
Right.
fund balance, you got a deficit there, a lot larger deficit that you're gonna have to overcome. We're gonna have to do some things, and those things will have to look different. So I can't say we won't have any layoffs, because I think we will have some, but I don't think there'll be huge direct impacts to classrooms. We'll try to do everything we can to stay away from those as much as possible. But a lot of it too will just be looking at how we spend every dollar and what can we do to save as much as we can so that deficit gets erased as much as it can, so our fund balance hopefully goes up more than what you see there. Again, still above the 7, which is good. There are some districts that I have a feeling, there are one in particular I'm thinking of that is taking this money probably because they can't afford not to. And that's a shame. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else? Okay. Again, I know you gave me approval already to rescind, but I wanted to make sure you understood, you know, had all the information that you needed. And then we did do an action item just to reconfirm what your thoughts are on it, so.
Good, thank you. All right, on to regular action items. 3A, as recommended, the Board of Education rescind the decision to opt in to receiving and using 31AA funding for the 2025-2026 fiscal grant year. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? Move to a vote. All those in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, everybody. No public comment. The next board meeting, the Grandville Board of Education, will be our organizational meeting Monday, January 5th, 2026 at 6:30 at the Grandville Administration Building. We are adjourned.